Welcome back to the green yard. It is a February day, kind of beginning of February here in Phoenix, Arizona. We've been having some really great weather the last few days. Still a little bit cold for our tropicals, still seeing, not additional kind of cold damage, but they haven't recovered yet from that cold damage. So waiting for it to have the lows consistently in the 50s. Probably by the end of the month we'll start seeing that. But we've been having temperatures all the way up to the mid to high 70s, which all of our trees and our plants have really been enjoying, which is awesome. I'm over here in the beginning of the food forest part of the green yard. You can see kind of this pathway behind me. I never actually introduced this pathway to the green yard. I put this in about almost about 2 years ago. Gonna end up changing my original design. We're gonna do kind of a boardwalk. So when you walk, you'll be a foot above the ground and kind of walk through the area, which will be, I'm really excited about that, but that's kind of a future project down the road. Over here on my left, a little bit out of view, we have our one of our papayas, our Suriname cherry, and our longan tree. And then of course, what we're going to talk about today is our lychee, but I do have behind this big, huge passion fruit vine is our gramachama tree, which I did a video on before. And then way off in the distance, you can see our rose apple and our avocado tree, as well as all of our tropicals covered back there by the koi fish pond. So this is kind of the intro area. We're going to put a fence in. I'm actually in the process of digging out those holes to put in a wooden kind of garden fence here, block off this space a little bit more. We're going to do an archway and have it be kind of this magical experience walking through into the food forest part of the green yard. So that's a work in progress, and I'll definitely do a video on that as well. But we're here today for honestly one of my favorite trees. I know they're all my favorite, but I really like this one. I actually really like the fruit too. That's part of the reason that I bought it. My wife likes it as well, which is a huge bonus too. But this is a lychee. I do not know the exact variety. It was just a no-name lychee when I purchased it. But I actually bought it when it was about half the size it is today. So it's grown a lot. And lychees are kind of like our miracle fruit, from what I've learned here in Phoenix, is they grow very, very slowly. So it's going to take a long time for it to reach, that big tree. And they do top out around that 6 foot high range here in Phoenix. So they don't really get to grow into the canopy of this giant mulberry tree. They'll kind of stay as this smaller tree here, which is part of the reason I planted it here. I actually planted it here for one, because they need a lot of afternoon shade, but also because they are cold hardy. At least for our cold temperature here in Phoenix, they can take our winters like a champ. In fact, it's their favorite time, and I'll show you here in a few minutes. Our lychee is actually pushing out a whole bunch of new growth right now as well. So let's talk a little bit more about growing a lychee here in Phoenix, Arizona. Here we go. beautiful lychee, and as you just saw, there's a whole bunch of new growth coming out this year. It's actually a very, very happy tree this year. We've got a whole bunch of new growth, not only on the tips, but also on the inside, and that's kind of something new. I've never really had, kind of, you can see up here too, I've never really had this kind of new growth growing off the existing trunk. It's always been off of these kind of linear branches that are here. So that's really exciting. That means the tree's really happy. You can see this guy's right here, and actually this one down here looks really amazing. So let's see if we can get the camera to focus for you. Not quite, but that one down there looks really amazing. This is actually kind of a newer branch that came off recently, so it grew this whole new branch in the last year, since last spring. So that's really exciting. Like I said before, this is a small tree. It's only about maybe 2.5 feet tall right now. They grow pretty slow here in the Phoenix desert, and part of that reason is because you can see here there's a lot of salt burn. They do not like our salt that we have, all of the minerals that we have in our soil. They're not a big fan of that, so they need really deep watering to kind of flush that salt out. And even here with us in our flood irrigation, it's still not getting deep enough watering. So that's one of the tricky things with lychee. The other tricky thing too is the soil pH. They require a very low soil pH, I believe 4.5 to 5 if I remember correctly. So I'm constantly adding sulfur every 2 months or so to this guy to really lower that pH in the area and help it grow and thrive. As far as cold goes though, they take our cold like a champ. Not even any real damage. Maybe a little bit this year. We got kind of super cold this year in the green yard, down to into the high 20s. So that might be a little bit of cold damage, not necessarily salt burn. But the thing that lychees don't like is our summer heat. And so you can see I planted it behind this giant mulberry tree. I know it's dormant right now, so the leaves aren't there, but in the summer this thing is covered in leaves, and there's very little sunlight getting through after about a 10 o'clock time, and that's really what they need. After 10 o'clock, no sun to get through at all, just that afternoon shade. So in the summer it requires a little bit more water, but in the winter time I think I've watered it maybe 2 times this winter, so it's been doing really well underneath this heavy mulch. That's the other thing. They like a lot of organic material in their soil, and that also helps with that soil pH. So I've just been adding mulch constantly to this soil. You can see back here, this is actually about 3 feet worth of mulch. Wow. Yeah, about 3 feet, because it was planted lower than this lychee. So there's a lot of mulch here, and that's something else that helps it grow. All right, so this is kind of one of our shorter growing updates with this lychee. I'm hoping, and lychees do fruit here in Phoenix. I have seen more mature lychees with fruit on them. So as this one keeps growing, keeps getting more acclimated to its current climate, microclimate where it's currently planted, as it puts off a lot of new growth. I see so much new growth on here that makes me so happy. I'm so excited to see that new growth. As it continues to mature and grow older, it will definitely fruit here in Phoenix, especially, and in the green yard, especially if I continue to add that sulfur, continue to lower that pH, keep adding that that mulch that's in here, that thick, heavy mulch. And then also, of course, deep watering. You got to get that salt down away from the roots in order for those lychees to really thrive here in Phoenix. So that's growing a lychee tree in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm really excited to hopefully do a harvest video soon, maybe in the next year or two, with this lychee tree, so we can get our own homegrown lychees. So as always, hope you guys are doing great, and I hope you live green, plant lots, and of course have fun. I will with my beautiful lychee tree. See you next time.